Episode of Access to Experts, and today we're going totally Diamond Diva. Well, we're going into the mindset, we're going into the magnetic mindset. How do we get what we want, right? Everybody wants what they want, but how do we get to it? And so I have none other than the amazing Diamond Diva, the mindset maven. That's what I like to call it. Hey, Diamond, thank you so much for joining me.
This is Diamond, and I'm doing absolutely amazing. And it's always a pleasure to see you and work with you. I believe that you have a magnetic personality, and so it's so wonderful to join you today and have this discussion. Thank you for having me.
Oh gosh, I'm thrilled. I always enjoy the way you dive into different topics and the way you actually explain things. Your mindset is just magnetic. I'm so attracted to it because you have this ability to really focus in on what's important and you inspire people. So that's so magnetic. And I'm like, okay, let's spread some of the inspiration. Let's get out there. So you know what? Let's dive right into it, right? So your magnetic mindset. Now, I know that you have been in this space for quite some time. And you had to have some major mind shifts happening with you to be able to handle all the different things that life brought your way. That life just happens, it brings stuff to us, right? And how we respond to it is really, really important. It can be negative, it can be positive. It's all matter of our perspective. But what I really like is the way you talk about internal the internal conversation that happens. So let's talk about that. What's internal, what's external, and how do they work off of each other, or how do they support each other? So can you just kind of tell us more about that?
Absolutely. And, great questions and distinctions. And I just want to send that love and light right back to you. There's an old saying that you only see in others what you see in yourself. And so thank you very much for the nice compliments. And, it's absolutely true what you said. I went through some very challenging times in my life, which is how I even began this journey of mindset. And a lot of it started from what I was seeing in my external world, but most importantly, it was how I was processing it in my internal world. And so you may be familiar with the terms of things like negative self talk, or just even that feeling of doubt or fear or stress or anxiety and overwhelm. And a lot of these cues that we have from our external world, well, the significance happens in how we receive them internally. And so this is something that I had to learn as I went through my dark times and my challenging times, that it wasn't so much what was happening in the external world that was the issue. It was how I was receiving it internally. So here's the distinction I want everyone to really understand. If you're seeing things in your external world that you're not happy with, that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you sad, in order to actually affect change there, most people go to that external thing. How do I fix this? How do I fix that? And sometimes it's things that maybe is not in our realm to change. The real secret is to affect change in our external world, we have to first look within, because all change, all transformation starts from within first. And so it really goes back to the mindset, and the magnetic mindset is about intentionally attracting the things that you actually want in your life and repelling the things that you don't. And that starts with that mindset shift of understanding that regardless of what's happening in our external world, we get to choose how we process it within. We get to choose specifically our thoughts, we get to specifically choose our words, and we get to choose our action steps, which impact how we create our internal feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and mindset, and ultimately the results that we have within the world.
I love that. So it just comes down to what you think about comes about, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, if we're watching what we're thinking about, and if we're watching what we're talking about, what comes to mind a lot of times when we're going through a challenging time, we seem to want to gravitate towards people who will say, "Oh my God, that's just terrible. You poor you," and all that. And so it's like adding fuel to the fire. So we just negativity, more negativity, instead of going to people who are going to say, "Hey, come on, let's find a way out of this. What are you going to do?" So, do you think that has a lot to do with how quickly we get out of situations and or not?
Absolutely. Our environment is the number one factor on our mindset. And again, how we receive that information is important as well. And so you may have heard the phrase from Jim Rohn where he says, you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
Yep.
Why is that true? It's true because our brains process information constantly. It's the mind is a sending and receiving station of thought constantly. So all the things that are happening around you, especially the people in that environment, affect you. And so if you think about your mind kind of like a garden that's receiving seeds, and all the seeds that are planted will grow. If you got a bunch of negative friends, they're planting a bunch of negative seeds. They're like weeds in
Yep.
the garden. And so eventually you're going to shift in that way too. You're going to have a bunch of weeds and you're going to follow suit as well. So if you want to get in a space where you can create change and overcome challenges, then you have to be intentional about the environment you're in, because everything that's happening in that space, you're receiving on one level or another, and it will affect your ability to change. And so, absolutely being mindful of all the things you consume, particularly the people, will have a direct impact on your ability to transform.
So, it's easier said than done, as we know, because I know myself when I'm going through a hardship. One, not well, it's a lot easier now. So many years ago, when I was having challenges, I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know that if you do certain things will happen. And it took a while before I started learning about the universal laws. So in other words, if you do certain things, certain outcomes will happen just because it's a law. It's just the way it works. So let's talk about that, because I think there are a lot of people who don't understand, the law of gravity. Like, we don't question it, right? You drop that apple, it's going to fall to the ground. It's not going to float up, right? And so tell us about the three universal laws that are, I guess, the key components of us changing our lives. So let's have that.
Well, I love that you brought up the law of gravity first, because all the universal laws are natural and occurring and universally. And so the law of gravity is a great example because, like I said, most people don't question gravity. But here's the thing, most people cannot calculate gravity. You can't actually see gravity either, but you do feel the impacts of it, and it is a real factor in our lives. And the same thing is true for the other universal laws as well. You may not believe that it's a universal law, but you're still feeling the impact of it, just like gravity. And so I just want to make that distinction there, that these laws are occurring and impacting your lives, whether you see them, understand them, calculate them, or not. But just like gravity, if you do accept that this is a universal principle that will impact your life, and you move within the confines of that law, you'll find that you can use it to work for you and not against you. So I wouldn't recommend anybody testing whether gravity is a real effect or not. And the same thing is true for other laws. You can actually leverage them. So I
Before
believe
we
that.
before we dive into that, I
Yes.
have a question. Do
Uh-huh.
we have to believe for them to work? Like, I don't have to believe in a law of gravity for it to work. I can say gravity doesn't exist, but it's still going. If I jump off a roof, I'm going to land at the bottom, right? So, do we have
Yes.
to believe for the universal laws to work or not?
I don't think so, because they're naturally occurring. The distinction is when you do believe and choose to understand them, then you can begin to leverage them in your favor.
Mhm.
So just like gravity, if you say, well, gravity doesn't exist, but you violate that law by doing something dangerous that's going to show you that it's real, then you get the result of that action. But if you choose to say, gravity is a real thing, so I'm not going to do something dangerous like walk off a cliff and test it, then you're actually going to be able to leverage in your favor and prevent harm in that case. And so the
That's
same
so
thing's true.
important. Yeah. So,
It's That's a huge distinction. And so that's why it's important to be educated on these laws and what they mean and how they work, so you can actually use them intentionally. You see, they're impacting your life whether you realize it or not. But when you begin to understand them, then then you can actually use them intentionally in your life to get the desired results that you want.
One more tool in your toolbox, knowing how to leverage, knowing how to use what you have available to you. You guys, this is so important. Things are happening around us, whether we like it or not. There are certain things that will happen, whether we want them to or not. And so this is so, so, so important. That's why I want you to pay really close attention to the three laws that Diamond is sharing with us right now. And I got my pen handy because I know there's always a new distinction that I can pick up. Go for it, Diamond. Let us have it.
Absolutely, yes. And so the three universal laws that I believe are really foundational for you to leverage to get transformation, to have lasting change. The very first law is the universal law of insertion. Universal law of insertion. And I truly believe this is actually one of the most powerful of universal laws. And this law basically says that we have the ability to insert any thought in our minds. Now, it sounds
Any thought
simple.
we want, any thought.
Any thought. Yes. And this is significant. It sounds really simple. Okay, I can create a thought. But here's the thing about thoughts. Thoughts are the first level of creation. They are the first level of manifestation, if you will, for the things that are man made in our life. And so you have goals, you have things that you want to see. It first starts as a thought. Every single thing that we as humans have created has started as a thought. Somewhere, somebody had to first create in their minds first. And this is why this is such an important universal law, because some people, they won't even allow themselves to think that is possible. They won't allow themselves to create that big idea. And if you can't conceive it, if you can't create it in your mind first,
Mhm.
the likelihood of you bringing it into reality is very much limited. And so that's why it's so important to understand that we can dream big, that we can create amazing things, but you first have to be able to form that thought in your mind.
And it can be actually a lot of fun, right? Thinking about things. And we do this every day. I mean, honestly, we get hungry, what, three, four times a day, whatever. So before we go eat whatever it is that we're eating, we're like, what do I feel like having? And something's, oh, no, that doesn't sound good. Others, oh, that would be delicious. We can literally feel it. We can visualize what it is. I mean, do I want Chinese? Do I want Italian, right? We can see it as soon as we start thinking about it. So we do it every day. It's not a hard thing to do. We just have to make a conscious choice. Say, I'm going to think good thoughts, right? Or what do you think about? What makes you feel good? Where do you want to go on vacation? So we're doing it every day. Whether we go on vacation or not, we can just think about it, right? We don't have to say, well, I don't know how I'm going to get the money to go on vacation. It's like, where do I want to go on vacation? Then we figure out how much money we need to get there. Then we figure out what we're going to do when we get there. So, it's you got we do this every day. So the insertion, law of insertion, I love it. I even love the sound of it. You can insert any thought you want, anytime you want. So I mean, it's so empowering, Diamond. It's just so empowering, the thought of it. I can control my thoughts. I can insert any thought I want. And so why would I choose bad thoughts? I don't know. So let's go to the next one. So what's the second one?
The second universal law that I think is extremely important is the universal law of cause and effect. Now, this is a law that many of us are familiar with from the terms of for every cause, there is an effect, and for every effect, there is a cause. And the distinction I want y'all to understand is this: that is absolutely true. And there's also people who operate within these laws, again, whether they believe it or realize it or not. And it has a direct impact on the results they have in their life. For example, people who live in cause, they understand that they can insert those thoughts of the things that they want, and they can even take the action steps to be the creator, to get those ideas, those desires, to be the results, and to have that manifest into their life. They take responsibility for the things that happen. and they're willing to take action and make changes along the way to get their desired outcomes. These people live primarily in the cause to get the desired effects. Then there are people who live in effect. Those people feel like life is kind of random and things are happening to them. They don't typically take responsibility. And if the results are failure, for example, they
Mhm.
play the victim. And it's everyone else's or every other factor's fault. And so what happens for them is they don't actually take the initiative to create ideas or to create change or take responsibility. And so they often do not get their desires. They don't get the desirable outcomes that they're seeking. And so this is important because once you understand that when you live in effect, you're actually just responding to the externalities, whatever is happening in the environment around you, instead of creating your reality and creating your existence and being the catalyst for change in your life. And that's actually a very disempowering state that many people live in because they don't understand that they get to choose, that they
Mhm.
can choose to shift into cause and create the life that they desire.
This is so important. When we blame others for a situation in our lives, it's like it's very disempowering. You're right. It's just like, oh, if I don't have control over this and I don't have a choice in this, it's never going to change. It's Gosh, it's so constricting just the thought of it. But when we take responsibility, like, if somebody has done something and I'm really upset about it, or it's, whether it's work or friendship or whatever, relationships, and if I'm just upset because, oh, look at all that they're doing to me, then I'm like, oh, I don't have control over this. But if I say, wait, I allowed this to happen, what are some of the actions I took that contributed to the situation? I mean, we're one half of every relationship, one half. So if you change one half, the whole relationship is going to change, right? So just the thought of it is like, even if you're like, well, if I just change what I'm doing, even if I just change the way I'm thinking about the situation, it makes me feel more empowered. It's like there's something I can do. But if it's totally blaming on the other person, it's like, oh my God, I might as well just go sit in a corner and just, no, 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 that doesn't feel good at all. So I love that. Okay. Insertion, and then we go into cause and effect. So I can live in cause. That means I can make things happen in my life by choice. And if things don't go right, then I can choose to change my actions. Yes?
Absolutely, yes. And that's the key. We have the power of choice. That's one of the greatest gifts that we have as humans. And that's what makes the human mind so powerful. So, absolutely, live in cause, create, and continue to respond in a way that serves you. Don't allow those externalities to stop you because you get to choose your response and keep on moving forward.
I love it. Okay, now we got to get to the third one. We're going to be here for a while, I can see, because I'm just loving these answers. I'm inspired. So come on, Diamond, give us the third one.
The third law is an absolutely very, very popular and powerful law as well. And this law is the law of attraction. The law of attraction. And the law of attraction simply says that like attracts like. And it's absolutely true. And this is one of those universal laws that people often think, I can just think amazing things and it's going to come. But I want to make some distinctions here as well. Light does attract light, but there's a few other little nuances, and I won't go too deep, but I do want to share just a few distinctions that allow you to leverage this law more powerfully. Number one, the law of attraction has deeply embedded in the name the word action. Attraction has action embedded in it. Why? Because it does require you to do some action steps. So, yes, it starts with this wonderful law you created or this wonderful idea, this manifestation in your mind, law of insertion in a play there. You have embodied the law of cause and effect. You understand that you get to be the creator, you get to cause this amazing thing to be attracted into your life. And then the next step is to do some very special things. So when you start thinking about the mind and how it operates, There's this whole science surrounding the word neuroplasticity. You should look it up. This is
Mhm.
not woo, guys. This is science. And so, what it takes for the law of attraction to be activated intentionally is for you to have the thought that you inserted, and you couple that thought with emotion. That's energy in motion. And what happens on the neurological level is that thought is a neuron, that emotion is a neuron, and Hebb's rule says that neurons that fire together wire together. And what you actually create is a neural pathway that connects those things into your life. So this is on a neurological level. You literally rewired your mind. And then when you start thinking about how it works beyond that in your real life, you begin to attract those things that are on that same frequency, on that same line. So, for example, if you have thoughts that, I'm going to have a wonderful and healthy life, you have that thought and you feel the health and vitality, you're going to attract opportunities for you to eat well, to rest well, to exercise, to do all those things that are in alignment with that. You begin to attract those things. And what's really amazing about this law is you do it by actively taking steps. So you begin to seek out those opportunities by activating another part of your brain called the reticular activating system. And so what this does is it seeks out those things literally in your environment that are in alignment with your thoughts and with your desired actions evoked by your emotions. And it's absolutely amazing what happens when you activate this law intentionally into your life.
Gosh, no, it's so, I'm just loving all of this. And you know that because I'm just so aligned with it. And the thing that you brought up is that we do take action according to what we have planned. So if I say I'm going to live a healthy life, that means we eat healthy. That means we do healthy things. And the thought of having something that's not healthy, eating something that's not healthy, is going to, do you really want to do this? At the very least, it's going to give us a pause. It's going to help us decide, do I want to take this? You may still choose to eat something that's not healthy, but at least you're not going to be doing unconsciously. At least that's what I've found. Once I make a decision, okay, I want to do certain things a different way, as soon as it goes against what I have decided, it's like, wait, red flag, hold on, or at least a yellow flag, you know. So it just is, I'm so glad you brought that up, because once we're conscious of it, it shows up. So okay, now we're gonna move, and I'm looking at the why. I'm always in the conversation of the why, just focusing on the unique influencer code. A big part of it is, sharing our why stories. It's always the why do we do what we do. Now, when you said there are 7 layers to the why, I know I dig in pretty deep to really get to the why, but 7 layers? Oh my gosh. So do tell. I'm all ears with this one, Diamond. 7 layers to get to your why. What is it? How do we do it?
Absolutely. Well, the key here is understanding the significance of what these things mean to you in your life. I always reference the neuroscience on this because what I want people to understand is this stuff is just not hyperbole. These are actually real things that affect you on the neurological as well as the physiological level. These things happen for a reason. And so if you have a big goal in your life, like we said, maybe, to be healthy, to have a healthy lifestyle, but you haven't made that connection to your deep why, then the likelihood of you actually taking the action steps and doing the things that you need to do are not very high. You have to have a neurological connection. That means you're missing the other piece, which is the emotional connection, because it's not high enough on your value ladder for it to be important for you. And so the reason why we go 7 layers deep is because oftentimes when we set goals, we're looking at the surface level result. Okay, maybe you have a financial goal. Okay, I want to make money. Well, that's great. But why is that important for you to make money? Why is it important for you to show up in this way? Why is it important for you to launch
Mhm.
that business or to bring out, that best version? What's going to happen when you do this? And once you begin to go deeper, 7 layers deeper, exact, and there's a specific process you go through. But once you get 7 layers deep, having gone through that process, you're going to get to that why that actually gives you that neurological connection that actually allows those neurons to fire and wire together. And that's going to give you a deeper connection to taking those action steps, because now you've gone beyond the surface level things that may allow you to stop or procrastinate along the way. And you've made a connection to that part of you that's going to show up despite the setbacks, that's going to show up despite the pitfalls along the way or the external things, because you know that this is something that you want to do.
Mhm.
It's not an option, it is a must. And so going through the 7 layers deep process is essential for any big goal that you have, because you have to make that connection physically and mentally in order for you to follow through and get a result.
That is so, so important, because a lot of times, we are in autopilot mode. At least that's what I find with the people I'm working with. And I mean, these are people who want to make a difference, right? They're speakers, authors, coaches, consultants. So these are people who are service minded, and they want to write a book to make a difference. They want to be presenting to make it, like us, right? And so even then, we are so often in autopilot mode. We have these answers to certain things that we just like on the surface. And until somebody says why, well, why is that important? Well, oh, okay, but why is that important? And what will happen when that happens? You're so right. We don't dig in deep enough to get to the core why. That's the one that's going to sustain us. It's so important. Now, what I call the reluctant celebrity syndrome. It has a lot to do with that. A lot of times, when we're working with people, or we say, hey, come on, we're going to do an interview, like, oh, let's do it. And then they'll find reasons not to show up. They'll find reasons not to get on camera. And these are all the surface, the fears that come up, the excuses that come up. And a lot of times it's because we have these preconceived notions about who we are and how we're supposed to show up. And what happens is that we are so in our heads, right? We're so in our heads. What do people think? And what do they think of us? And how do I look? How do I sound? All that, that we actually get away from our why, the reason that we're actually doing all the things we're doing. And so that's what I call, we're getting to get out of our head and getting to our heart. That's where our why lives, right? And so in that process, and so the reluctant celebrity syndrome, I find that it comes up all the time, by the way. Anytime we're reaching into a different level of mindset, like for example, somebody who's never been on Zoom. The first time they get on Zoom, they have the reluctant celebrity syndrome. If they come up with, oh, how do I look? I don't see the way other people look, or I don't look like they do, or whatever. We come up with all these things, and so once we get comfortable, now a lot of people are comfortable on Zoom, because somehow they do tap into the why. Why do you want to get on Zoom? Well, because I need to get on Zoom to connect with other people. But then if I say to them, come on, you're going to be on a show, they're like, oh my God, here we go to the reluctant celebrity syndrome again. The fears that we have to kind of push aside to get to the why. Or if we say, okay, you're going to be interviewed on NBC, right? They're like, oh my God, now the whole world's going to see me, or whatever. So it comes up all the time. And the thing is, we all have it. So if you are not in touch with your why, it's okay. Different situations actually are kind of, I guess, putting up barriers. Would you say, Diamond? Would you find that to be true? Depending on a situation, we have different filters that come up to cover the why.
Absolutely, I would say so. We have different situations that come up that, we frame in our mind could be blocks to our ability to do the thing. And that's why it's so important to really have that connection with your internal world and your why, because you begin to understand that these are just false narratives, right? That we created because something about that situation is pushing us out of our comfort zone. And that's actually something that happens on a neurological level as well. Our brain is designed to protect us. And so it doesn't distinguish between a real threat, like, putting your hand in the mouth of a lion, for example, something I wouldn't recommend.
No, no, don't do it.
Don't do that at home. We don't want that, versus something that we will want you to do, like to show up on a Zoom and to show the world your talents and your skills and to bring out that wonderful gift so people can learn from you and begin to impact the world as well. And so those are things that we fear, but that's not a real threat. That's that reluctant celebrity syndrome that's creating a story that's simply not true. And so when you have that connection with your why, and you go through the process of practicing in front of the camera and learning all the skills, you'll see that you actually can do it, and you should, because now you're going to help yourself and those around you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know what? There's a lot of energy that goes behind the reluctant celebrity syndrome, if you will, right? We come up with all these reasons. There's like internal energy. It's like, oh, I can't do that. We want to protect ourselves. We can take that energy and turn it into something positive. It's like, you know what? This is not about me. I'm here because I have an opportunity. I'm here because I created this opportunity, because I visualized this, because I attracted this. I'm here. This is the time, and I'm going to show up. So I'm going to get out of my head and get into my heart, get into my why, and make a difference. That's where the energy comes in. So, you guys, you can use the energy for good instead of stopping you. And Diamond and I, like you can tell, right? We're super passionate about this because we both have gone through our own life experiences to choose how to overcome the obstacles that come up, or the mindset challenges that we have to face, and we all of us can do it. And so actually we did this fabulous masterclass that's available to all of you for free, just because there's only so much we can share with you right now, but the masterclass we dive in a lot deeper in it, so we invite you to that. So if you do take look at the link below, you'll be able to go and get access to the masterclass, and we'd love your comments and your thoughts. What would you like us to do? Would you want us to come back again and share more with you? We'd love to do that, and would love to get your thoughts and on topics that are important to you. And do go and watch the masterclass. You'll get a lot more information. So, Diamond, this has been so good. I always enjoy my time with you, because no matter what we're talking about, the energy that you bring into it, the positivity, and I always learn something from you. As the saying goes, big doors swing on little hinges, right? Every time you share something, I don't know, maybe it's because you're always learning new things, right? Because I always hear something new from you. So I just so appreciate you, and I'm so thankful to have you. And we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap it up. Is there a parting thought that you want to leave with people? Like one thing they should know, the most important thing to think about for today? I'd love for you to share that.
Absolutely. And I just have to say thank you again, and every time I meet with you, it's always a breath of fresh air, because you really get the importance of sharing your knowledge with the world. And, one of the takeaways I want everyone to understand is this: everything that you've learned thus far in your life, literally up until this present moment, has brought you to where you are today. And so you know that there's a next level waiting for you. You know there's more that you can give, or you wouldn't be watching this right now. There's a part of you, even if it's on the subconscious or the unconscious level, you know that there's a next level for you. You know it's important for you to show up. And the truth is, it's important to take the time to participate in these amazing events that Ann shares and that we put together for you. Watch the replays, attend the master class, take every opportunity for you to expand. In order for you to close the gap from where you are right now to where you want to be, is you absolutely have to get that next level mindset, skill set, and action set to succeed. And that's what we want to share with you all through all these different opportunities, is because we understand that a mind expanded, as Einstein says, never returns to its original size. And the more that you take the time to continuously learn, and improve, that's going to expand your mind and that's going to move you much further and further towards your goals. And I just want everyone to take the time to continue to do that. And I'm so grateful to be on the journey with you, Ann, and everyone listening today. Can't wait to see you all in the masterclass.
Oh my gosh, I can't even top that off. So we're going to leave it on that positive note. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Diamond, as always, love having you here. Thank you for joining me. And we'll see you all next time. This is Access to Experts. And you guys, thank you again. You rock as we do, right? We all rock. Okay. So we